Welcome back, everyone. We've had a wonderful day so far. Welcome to those of you who are just joining us online, maybe just tuning in. We've come to our last session. It's a really special one, focused on the future of MIT open learning, MIT open education. Once again, I'm Sarah Hansen, the Assistant Director of Open Education Innovation, and I'm with Dimitris, Bertsimas, and Curt Newton. And for those of you just tuning in now, Dimitri is the Vice Provost for Open Learning at MIT, as well as a professor and associate dean at Sloan School of Management. Curt Newton is the Director of MIT Open Courseware. It's an honor to engage both of you in this conversation about the future, and I hope that all of you will leave feeling inspired for the future. I always like to start with a personal question that helps everyone here get to know you as a person. And one of the leading goals for our organization is reaching 1 billion learners within 10 years. And Dimitri, I'd like to start with you and ask you why you are passionate about that. Where did that come from? You didn't just wake up one day and decide that's the goal.
Yeah. Well, most of my colleagues at MIT think I'm dreaming. On the other hand, we heard in the morning that OCW has reached 500 million. Yeah. It seems a factor of 2, maybe in 10 years as opposed to 25 years. It's not a huge reach. To be honest, when I had the 1 billion, I did not know exactly the numbers. But look, MIT is an institution by its history that it has always put high aspirations to convince and my colleagues to participate in such a movement. I can tell you, suppose I tell you I would like to do 100 million people, what OCW has done, it's not exciting enough. So that's the other part. But I also believe as an objective for the world, MIT as an institution educates 11,000 students. 1 in a million people, roughly. Very, very smart kids. In 41 years, I have educated maybe 15,000 of the students over 40 years. Aspiring to educate 1 in 8 in the world, especially in areas, if you look at Africa, for example, only 10% of the population goes to university. To aspire to educate, a sizable portion of the rest of the 90%, and I just picked one particular continent where the demographics are exponentiating. I thought it was a worthy objective that can mobilize our community of faculty, students, and open learning.
It's so interesting that a key aspect for you is motivating faculty in our team. It seems like you went to the Sloan School of Management, maybe.
Well, I have some experience about success or failures. Part of my background, thank God I have this background, although I wouldn't be successful. I don't know if I'm successful, aspiring to be successful in this job, is that, I have been a serial entrepreneur in my life. Yeah. And I have found the key characteristic of success and failure is to motivate the people to do it as a force. And it has been my effort the last year and a half. My colleagues, I suspect, have observed that I try to decrease the silos we have to move as a force. We have made progress, but there is room to go.
Thank you. Curt, how about you? Why is it personally important to you to reach 1 billion learners?
Well, I feel a very deep sort of intrinsic motivation to some of the values that we've talked about throughout this session about the incredible force that knowledge as a public good can be. And I've been here almost the full 25 years, 22 years here at Open Courseware, just seeing, year by year how that progress builds, and I can see, in a sense, that it is in reach with a few more things, which I think we'll get into over the course of this hour, that I think will open that up. And I see how we've had this tremendous impact, but that impact through really reaching a relatively small percentage, especially in certain countries around the world. And so just a huge opportunity that I think is very motivating. Yeah.
Interesting. Thank you for bringing in your personal values, your personal motivations. So if we extend that to the organization, Curt, thinking about OpenCourseware in particular, what core values of OpenCourseware should we hold on to as we move through the next 25 years?
Yeah. A few things that really are top of mind for me there. The commitment to share broadly from across, all possible disciplines from MIT feels really important. I think there's a risk if we allow ourselves to be too focused on just the, say, top 10 topics. We lose the richness that we've heard from some of our, learners, and educators that we've heard from today. Hanada speaking about urban studies, for instance, probably won't be a top 10 topic, but there's something really special that's been enabled by MIT, by OpenCourseware's commitment to sharing from across the full curriculum that I think is really important to carry forward. Another one, as these new tools, AI tools, come in increasingly into our hands, is to keep the proper focus on humans as being really fundamentally important and essential, and working collaboratively with other humans in this work. And continuing to figure out the right way to do that, I think is another core value that we want to carry forward. Yeah.
And similarly, what new needs, Dimitri, have emerged in global education that you think we need to be paying attention to going forward?
Well, everybody and their brother is talking about AI.
Yeah.
It would be, I'm an AI guy.
I know.
So it's not exactly, it has occurred to me that AI and as you perhaps know, we have launched already, it's now past tense, launched.
Yeah.
We have launched what I call universal AI, the idea to educate. Universal is not a random title, is to educate in an area that is growing fantastically. Everybody in the world, we aspire in AI, in the use of AI to improve lives, careers, trajectories of people. But in addition, there are other forces. If you think about universities are structured vertically. We have civil engineering, number one. Mechanical engineering, this is, MIT has numbers for those of you who don't know. Number two, I graduated from mathematics, course 18 and so forth. But that's not how the world is organized. The world is organized horizontally. There is problems of health, of climate. If you look at the major problems of the world, energy and so forth, they are not organized neatly in a vertical way. So I think there is an opportunity, in my opinion, to educate the world, and especially the young people, in a way the problems come. Because problems don't come with labels. Problems come as they are, and it's up to us to organize knowledge. So that's the second opportunity. First, AI use broadly. Third, and it was actually my dream when I joined. So actually was one of the most important dreams I had, and I would not have expected to be so close to realizing it. Personalized education. Traditional university education is not personalized. What we do today is definitely not personalized. We say the same thing. It is absorbed by you the same. Might be differently, but we say the same things. But the opportunity in online education is to personalize and we know there's significant research to suggest that people do not understand the same way. They have different values. They have different absorption rates and so forth. I think the dream of personalized education has been a dream of mine for decades before. I thought maybe in 5-10 years I would be able to do something in that. We're about to launch personalized education in the summer. So based on some AI research we're doing. So that's a third. Fourth area that I think needs adaptation. The traditional unit of of knowledge is classes. We have semester courses at MIT. Our OCW are OCW courses. We export what we do. I'm not criticizing, I'm saying I'm doing it myself, by the way. So it is, but that's not how, especially younger people do not absorb this way. They absorb knowledge in shorter horizons. In fact, my friend Curt educated me on this. I'm a good student, Curt. So, and I check with my students. They absorb in different ways. So I think trying to organize knowledge in a shortened chunks, also it's easier to revise. If you expect my colleagues at MIT, me included, to revise 50% of a class that changed in AI, 26 lectures, 50%, 13, good luck. I mean, it will never happen. But if you have a module of 4 or 5 to change two lectures, it's feasible. I mean, and I have evidence on that because we already have been doing it. So fifth.
I'm having a hard time keeping track of all these. I'm like mentally repeating them in my head, but go ahead. What's
AI?
Yeah, I got it. Personalized learning.
Good.
Modularized learning. And then there was another one, but I forget it.
The complication is I forgot it too. It was interesting that when we were reading, I think Peter read the original OCW proposal. It talked about translations. I've never read the original proposal, but it talked about translations. Is it correct, Peter?
Yeah.
Well, it was my hope to create translations. But it hasn't happened. It was the scope, but I haven't seen it in open learning. Well, we are launching this month translation to 12 languages.
Yeah.
So translations are critical, in my opinion. You have countries like Japan that 80% of the people don't speak English. So if you have content, fantastic content, that is only in English, I mean, you limit. But if you have content in the local language, adaptable, personalized, and so forth, you have a higher chance of adopting. So it is indeed, I have few things more to say, but otherwise, if you are losing it, I'm certain we are not the only one.
No, the other one you mentioned was horizontal learning. Yeah, thank you.
Good student.
She's good.
Yeah.
Very important horizontal learning.
Yeah.
And it informs, later on we'll talk about our strategy, it informs our strategy.
Yes.
Namely, AI, the first thing we launched, is definitely cuts across all 26 departments we have at MIT and all the centers. I don't know anyone who is not even affected. Climate is our next objective. Energy, they cut across.
Yeah.
Health, name it. There is, in my opinion, especially with the young people, whom I have, as you can tell, I'm not indifferent to my young friends.
Yes.
So I do feel that educating in the world they will face, with the same orientation, I think it goes a long way. And I actually argued to Sally that we should also do it residentially, not only online.
Oh, that's
that is, it is our obligation to also teach our own students.
Yeah.
Well,
So can we back up for a second for the
Of
people
course.
who are maybe just joining us online or are new to MIT Open Learning? Can you explain what universal learning
Yeah,
is?
Yes,
Go ahead.
that's appropriate, yes. So what is universal learning? So let me start with universal AI because it's in our past.
Okay.
For those of you that have an MIT account, MIT DU account, and you register on the left side on Learn MIT DU, you can see universal AI. It has 16 modules of the fundamentals and at the moment 6 vertical modules. So altogether 22, about 30 faculty have participated in this effort, and there are another 18 cooking, another 18 verticals. So what does it mean? The first collection of modules is 4 modules on the fundamentals of programming and machine learning. Annabelle, I don't know if Annabelle's here, was a significant participant in the first 4. This content, by the way, is free.
Okay.
Second set of modules, it is the fundamentals of deep learning. There are 3 modules. Each module has of the order of 4 to 5 lectures, altogether 15 to 7, I forget the exact number, lectures. Next one is prescriptive AI, decision making with AI. Next one is large language models and generative AI. Next modules is the ethics of AI and the future of work. And then from a vertical perspective, we have AI and energy, AI and health, AI and law, AI and AI plus X, basically, the X is so forth. That's sort of the first. In other words, we teach people not at the level of graduate level. See, if you are genuinely trying to reach a billion learners, you have to teach things in a way that not an MIT student only understands, but the world, which means high quality content, application oriented, that speaks to problems of the world with an applied orientation and quite more accessible. So that's the foundational piece. And then if somebody wants to deepen their understanding, you'd like to understand what is the implication of AI in law, of which there's substantive, or health, or biology, and so forth. That's the idea of that part. So this is on AI. So then we have a new effort that two of my colleagues lead, Chris Rabe and Desiree Plata. I think Chris is in the room. I think it was in the morning. Is to do similar things on climate and energy. Foundational, climate is a significant existential threat of our times, especially important for the people who have another 70, 80 years to live. So it has similar educating people in the fundamentals and then verticals. Next one is biology. We call it universal biology. Fourth one is universal health. The first two, biology, climate, and energy, we are hoping to have our first modules in September, and hopefully the end. So I would like to encourage you to, especially many of you have MIT, and by the way, even if you don't, you can register. We are actually launched March 30th to individuals, not only institutions. And there are two ways we go about it. The first way is to try to reach individuals. We now have the platform. I'm very excited about this platform. We are moving all of OCW, all of MITx, our professional education, I hope July 30th, to the new Learn platform. So in a sense, we are, and in a sense, we are controlling our destiny. We are controlling quality. We are controlling, all of our innovations will be there. We are going to create. We are creating translations. In end of April, we are the first guinea pig, so to speak, would be universal AI. But rest assured, I will make certain that OCW gets it. MIT, all of our efforts benefit from that. So that's another advantage of fully controlling your destiny. And everything is based on OpenEdX, which is a platform. And I asked my colleagues in engineering, where should I bet? I'm not very knowledgeable in this area. They proposed to me OpenEdX. This is where we are putting. So it's in a sense, MIT. If you think about it fundamentally, MIT is going solo on providing knowledge, controlling quality, and so forth. But this is only the beginning. There is a phase 2 and phase 3. I actually believe MIT, while it's a great institution, doesn't have the totality of knowledge. So we first start MIT leading with universal learning. Second phase, which is actually happening as we speak, institutions from other countries, in the United States, but different than MIT, develop their own content because everything lands on Learn. Their students in phase 2 have access. We have no control on what they put. But phase 3, some of the best of this material, we put it, we embed it, and then we offer it to the world as well. In other words, the collective intelligence of the world is capable of addressing, of doing that. So we don't restrict, but there is one difference. We control quality. In my opinion, EDX, Coursera, and so forth have exceptional content and extremely poor content. That's my opinion, of course. You might not agree. But if you look at the totality, I mean, some of them, I don't know if it's even correct, to tell you the truth. Forget about pedagogically. So that's sort of the overall strategy. I mean, people can also ask questions afterwards. You know, I like interacting with the audience,
Yes.
as you know.
I will get us there.
Okay, great. I'm sorry I spent more time. I apologize.
You are allowed. It's okay.
All right.
So one thing you got at Dimitri is this idea of others contributing and knowledge as a public good,
Yeah.
which is so interesting. And that speaks so much, Curt, to the ethos of OCW. And I'm wondering how you're envisioning that OCW's foundational beliefs might be represented within universal learning, either as it is now or as it might be in the future.
Yeah, I think it's a really important thing that we continue to be committed to. You know, one of the great things that's being enabled by MIT Learn is having all of these lifelong learning materials available for people in one place, and so you have a kind of a seamless discovery experience. Dimitri, you talked, about personalized learning. I like to think about what OCW has is, personalizable, right, materials. It's put out there in a wide open form so that you can grab as little or as much as you want. We need enhanced tools, which we are working on to make it easier to do so. But I feel like building on that foundation that we've got with those OCW materials, shared openly and freely with the world, provides a really important foundation that, will be, kind of unleashing in new ways through the Learn platform. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
So I'd like to give a concrete example how OCW material could be utilized in the new world as we envision it. The new world hasn't fully arrived. So in the morning, John Gruber was here, a very distinguished person in economics who has exceptional material. And so the way I would envision it is that, which is sort of starting at the moment slowly, is that you can take parts of this strong material, modularize it, make it smaller, add other things to it, so create what I call universal economics. And then other people participate as well. So you provide a more global educational system supported with translations, with personalized learning, with with all of. We have launched, for example, a tutor called Ask Tim, MIT in reversed. Notice it's not Ask Dim, Ask Tim.
Yeah.
So this is supporting every aspect. So there are round-trip influences. You can take OCW material, adopt it, and you can take some of the innovative things we have done and distribute it to everything else open learning does. That's, in my opinion, an advantage where all of this great progress we have made on multiple arenas, we can work together as opposed to siloed to move to the future.
Yeah, could I lean into another aspect of the public good? It's not knowledge is a public good for everyone who speaks English, right? And having done this work for 25 years, we also have the benefit of trying some stuff, and it worked for a while, and then it didn't, and we composted it, and we're going to, we prepared the soil for doing it new, right? We had actually a really vibrant translations program in the late aughts, early teens, which was very manually done, hand done. I think we had well over 1,000 OCW courses translated into like 10 different languages. But over time, that became unsustainable. And so we composted it, right? The soil is rich, right? The interest is really deeply there. We see in the usage statistics how much the opportunity would be. And now with the AI tools that are being brought now to bear, we've crossed the tipping point. They're good enough, showing up on Learn, to really kind of unleash the access to this knowledge as a public good for all languages. We now sit on the cusp of, and I'm incredibly excited about that for the next years to come.
And I can tell you, I know Greek.
Yes.
It's my native language. We checked Greek, there are only 10 million Greeks in the West. It's not like it's a gigantic. But I would like to check in something I understand that it's of good quality.
Yes.
A+.
Wow.
And I can say I didn't do anything. I mean, the AI and some of my students, our engineering team has worked on it. I mean, the quality is high. I mean, perfection is outside the human condition anyway. But it is high quality translations. I have evidence on this because I tried experimentally in high schools, by the way, in Greece. About 80 people in one, 70 people in the other. The comments are very positive.
Yeah, this is a really exciting future.
I definitely hope so.
I know, I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
1 billion learners, we better start.
We gotta get working. So in this new future, you talked about de-siloing and working together as a force to meet our goal of reaching 1 billion learners.
And we have done, UAI is a reality.
Yes.
50 people across open learning collaborating on this, just to say it's not a pipe dream only.
No, you're doing it. A+. It's happening.
No. If I get an A minus, I have rooms to grow.
Yeah, okay, A-. Curt, we think, and Dana is in the audience. Yeah, hi, Dana Doyle. So we think a lot about the future of MIT open education because we've really taken to heart what you're saying about like, why try to be open courseware, OWLs, like these separate entities when we could be more powerful together? So Curt, could you speak a little bit to our emerging vision for what MIT open education might become or the processes we're going through?
Yeah, I think it's a really exciting opportunity here that we get to reconsider, broadly the things that are happening and definitely sustain the things that are really key, but then kind of restructure and take another run at it. We're in a different world than we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Things are shifting. And so what we've alluded to, for instance, in this modularized and then well-supported learning journeys is one that I think is really important. And to show up for that with the open education ethos of making sure that it's freely available, to everyone around the world, regardless of institutional affiliation or financial situation as a starting point is really, really key. I don't know if you remember taking a trip and navigating with paper maps, and if you were a AAA member, you could get a triptych, right? And they would do the routing for you. I feel like, from a learning pathway perspective, we're on the cusp of getting ready to take the leap with a functional, GPS enabled, just hit the road and figure it out and get diverted and hit that coffee shop. You'll still get there. You don't have to have the manually created, curated triptych to tell you where you're going. Again, some of these emerging technologies and the ability to personalize these learning journeys based on the infrastructure, the personalizable, because I haven't said that very often yet, personalizable materials that we've got in open education will really make this possible. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah.
I would also like to comment the following. To reach 1 billion learners, 97% of those should be free.
Yes.
That is, I haven't yet lost it. I don't believe that, because even if we get 97% of people, it would be naive of me to believe that people in sub-Saharan Africa would be willing or even able to pay even $5 for this. But on the other hand, we need to be sustainable. That is, perhaps you don't know, but the MIT administration announced, and I actually agree with that. It's not against my wishes, that we had a subsidy of about $20 million from the institution. This will go to zero in 4 years. So therefore, for us to be able to support these visions, and we better have the vast majority in open education, but it cannot be only in open education because we will not exist. So realistically speaking, we organized open learning to open education that Dana and Curt are leading. And then we have a workforce learning. And then universal learning, because some of it is free, some of it is not, is like intersecting both of them. So, and I believe that we can achieve both sustainability as well as a significant number of learners. So that's a significant move forward. And speaking about strategy, I would like to acknowledge Andrew here from Wikipedia. You know, Wikipedia, you heard from Curt before, or Peter was it, is, you know, it is my personal go-to place to learn something, information from something. They have reached 4 or 5 billion learners. So I would, you know, Wikipedia, in my opinion, Andrew agrees because I checked yesterday, has some weaknesses, had fantastic success. This is truly an A+. But there is, you know, areas that they don't, you know, they don't have characteristics. They don't actually teach, you know, they translate information. It's not multimedia, it's primarily text. We are hoping, in fact, we have started the project together to combine forces. You know, the gentleman in the previous talk about collaboration between open forces, so to speak. Yeah. It is my aspiration anyway that this collaboration will help both institutions, and most importantly the world, because you know our learners can have significant information from Wikipedia, and Wikipedia learners can also get significant information from MIT. So stay tuned, but that's a significant bet. So to know that it's a significant bet, whoever comes to my office, I have a list of things. When we accomplish, I erase. It is number 1. Andrew saw it yesterday. So which means I will only erase it when I think we succeeded.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you haven't been to my office. Curt sees it every day. And
yep.
He sits
it's there. He's right.
He sits.
You don't like to just cross them out so you can remember your accomplishments?
No, because I then will focus on the new thing. Okay. Then I keep space. I will replace it. I had translations.
Yes, that's our.
Oh, good.
I erased it.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, I have so much to learn from you.
Well,
okay.
You come to my office.
Okay.
Not only Zoom.
Yeah. Okay. Curt, let's look into the future.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you to look 25 years out because we're just going to be holograms by then.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So 5 years from now.
10. 5 to 10.
All right, 5
okay.
to 10.
Which is my horizon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, yes,
Yeah.
fair. So 5 to 10 years from now, what are the opportunities for OpenCourseware's legacy to live on, but maybe be dynamic and change and become something new?
Yeah. I'm going to channel a couple things from that video, that wonderful video we saw this morning.
That was A+.
Yeah,
That was A+.
truly, yes. There was something about that moment, 2001-ish, with some of the forces that were at play, right? That opened up kind of a special opportunity, somewhat in that moment, right, of that moment, to, with a simple, brilliant, brave leap, disrupt the universe as you will, right? And I look at what's going on with AI, and it's absolutely, certainly going to disrupt itself, our kind of relationship with knowledge and how we work with each other and all of that. It feels like what we've glimpsed with the emergence of ChatGPT recently and some of this new agentic AI is like, wow, the first Mosaic web browser and AltaVista and Yahoo search and maybe some pets.com stuff is in there too, distracting us. But like sometime over the next, I'll say 5 years, I'm looking for some way that history rhymes with what happened 25 years ago. What's the opening the refrigerator or on the exercise bike, sudden just like rupture of conception that like, what's the brilliant thing to drop in there? It's like simple and can like galvanize this new movement for this, frankly, really at the moment, pretty confusing world that we're heading into. That's what I'm looking for, and that we continue to play a really important role in that. Yeah. That's what I hope for.
I have a prediction on this.
Oh, good.
Universal learning supported by AI, where the entirety of the world contributes. I have bet the house on that.
I have a little question about that.
Please.
And I don't even like that I'm asking it, but
It's okay.
like, how do you protect the MIT brand if everyone is contributing?
Well, see, because everybody would remember that this started at MIT. You see, I don't believe, I started the morning saying I love this institution. It's true. I have a deep affection to it, and its people and its students. But I definitely don't believe that we are the only people in the world that can have exciting thoughts, So I believe smart organizations utilize the world. If you look at the winning companies of today, they somehow manage to engage the world. For example, Google uses the entire internet to learn and so forth.
Yeah.
It's not just to have an algorithm, but the knowledge base. So, in the end of the day, if we succeed in reaching 1 billion learners with these initiatives and so forth, everybody will remember. Don't forget, everything runs on Learn MIT EDU. We have bet the house on that. So
Yes.
there might be Stanford content. There might be University of Lima content. But in the end of the day, it runs on MIT, on things that's my bet anyway.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Curt, did you want to add?
Yeah, I want to pick up on that a little bit. This is in the spirit, definitely, of kind of radical disruptions in the universe. Channel a provocation from my friend, the brilliant thinker Bayo Akamalafe. He gave this talk at the UNESCO Digital Learning Summit this past fall, where some of his experiences have him thinking that what we're heading towards actually is a big reset, and perhaps frankly a really useful one about the very concept of authorship of ideas, right? When this incredible new species that we've created out of our knowledge kind of gets in the middle there, maybe there's a sort of letting go of the concepts of ownership and authorship that get very enmeshed with things like brands. And I don't know how this is going to play out, but I feel like there's momentum that's leading us in this direction, right? That's going to be provocative in some really interesting ways. So we have to have the right way of holding this. Yeah.
But if you look at the scientific experience, I write papers with my colleague from Amsterdam, Dick Den Hertog. I write papers and books with my colleague in Germany, and we work. It's a very the scientific endeavor is a very much a collaboration endeavor, right? 100 years ago, it's the single scientist and so forth. We engage our students and so forth. Why not in education? Actually, Universal AI has, admittedly they were visiting professors at MIT, but we have a visitor from Greece, a visitor from the Netherlands, a visitor from the University of Seattle. I mean, they are all MIT related, and 1 + 1 is bigger than 2. I mean, you can tell. I mean, so I actually believe that, the key objective is to impact the world positively. Everything is on Learn. MIT will get a share. And I would like also to share with the audience a personal story of Chuck Vest, whom I was a big fan of. Chuck felt that in his 12 years as a president, his 2 most important contributions to the world was OCW, which is our MIT Stories #2, and our MIT Stories #3, the women faculty movement, which I would like to preview. So you just saw this was the second story on MIT Stories. We are working on #3. One of my colleagues, Lana Scott, is working on the matter. I'm hoping that Sally, when her time to change, will say, well, open learning, it's universal, whatever we do and so forth, would be a defining moment in her life.
Yeah, that's really exciting to think
I
about.
definitely believe that we'll succeed on that.
Yeah, you got to write Sally's dream on the top of your whiteboard. you know.
She knows already. We talked.
Okay, that's good. I feel like now would be a great time to open it up to questions in the audience because you've both said
Good.
several provocative things that I think people might want to pick up on.
No questions? I was expecting you.
A couple of them.
The body language suggested.
Kathy? Yeah.
Hello.
Number 2 then.
So I have a question. I totally believe in this modularization movement, but I also know that OCW users like this opening of the MIT classroom and getting that feeling of being in the classroom. And I want to hear about how you see what happens in the classroom in the future. How is the MIT classroom? What's happening in the classroom?
You mean residentially?
Residentially, because that's one of the really. They want modularization, but they also want to be in the classroom with the students.
Well, I have a proposal to the MIT faculty to do something like that. I believe the future of residential education is hybrid, where I don't believe we should teach, is Gil Strang here? I saw him in the morning. So suppose you want to learn linear algebra. He has exceptionally good lectures, really, A++, But on the other hand, if you want to understand, for the residential experience, you can utilize hybrid for learning the theories and so forth. But if you want to solve a real-world application, at least for our residential students, you can have a flipped classroom. Esther Duflo was talking about that.
We already do that, though.
We do that, and I would like to continue. I think, but in a larger, not many classes are hybrid. I would say so. I have a proposal to the, I come from the Sloan School about doing there's no hybrid degree at MIT. None. MIT does not give. It would be a first of its kind. So that would be a step in the right direction. So to be honest, given the financial pressures, it would be, I would say, I would be surprised if the faculty who in ordinary years, they would say no. I'm optimistic that, first of all, I think it's a good idea, but in addition, and if we do that, we can actually educate more students at MIT. 10x, not, that's this is a bit more futuristic, but we'll have evidence on this because there will be it has to be an MIT vote. We shall see. I'm optimistic.
Yeah. I'd like to respond briefly to that at a different level, which is I predict that our online learning materials will continue to show faculty teaching on chalkboards for many years to come, right? And we will continue to get questions. You guys still using chalk? Yeah, we are, because it's a really, really valuable pedagogical approach. Those chalkboard lectures will become less, 110 minutes long and more, carved up or at least discoverable in smaller pieces, but we'll still be showing the chalkboard for many years. And that sense of
I have no
being
difficulties
in the
with that, actually.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm not a particularly good, how do you call it? Chalkboard instructor, but I know others that are, wow.
Yeah.
You have to have good handwriting.
Yeah. I am excluded.
And more patience.
By definition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kathy?
Yeah, so I'm wondering, when you talk about the universal education piece and then having MIT content there, but also allowing other universities or colleges to contribute, do you think there's certain universities and colleges in the U.S. that would be more likely and some less likely, and the same outside the U.S.?
I'll tell you what I know for sure, and then the other is conjecture. So, we have started this phase 2 with the top engineering school in Greece. I have lots of connections there. So I have tried to connect with some of my colleagues at MIT to develop AI and drug design, AI and satellite data and so forth. They told me yes, but they haven't done anything. But the people in Greece, actually both of them were MIT educated, but they are professors there, they start doing it. I've seen what they have done, excellent content. So the answer is definitely from universities abroad, and I have one more. I have two examples. It's happening. Whether Stanford would contribute in this effort, where MIT is leading, I have my doubts. But I see why not. Multiple. Take, for example, a 2-year college that they might have. See, we at MIT, I don't think we have particular expertise in teaching 2-year college students. I mean, I have none. Some of my colleagues have more. Some colleagues have more. But if you have very dedicated, exceptionally good instructors in the pedagogy, they can contribute. And if we feel that is good for the overall, after all, the fundamentals are more. I would definitely see that. I would see 4-year college. Williams College might be, I do believe the major research universities, in the beginning, they will not. If it becomes a global movement, you never know. But don't forget, we control quality.
And would you control who you invite in, or would you allow people?
Say again?
Would you control who you invite in, or would it
Everybody
be
can
open?
propose.
Okay. That's
Everybody can propose. But we have the judgment of whether. Yes?
Yes, thank you. This is a very interesting thing, and I have sort of 3 pieces of future.
One at a time, though.
Oh, I'll do them very
I
fast.
cannot keep them straight. That's the problem. You already observed I lost one.
Okay. If you could say a few words then, and take one of them, the PK through 12 initiative. Much of the old school open learning is college level courses, but you have a new initiative to address through to the earlier grades. And so that's the first of 3 quick things.
So how PK-12? Look, we already have some experience in high schools. In Greece, we have 2 of the major high schools, and we are currently talking with the Minister of Education for all of the high schools of Greece, and it has moved quite far. This is high schools, people that are 16, 17, 18. I have personally no experience of how to teach 5, 7 years olds, 8 years olds. I mean, I don't have that. And what we develop is not appropriate for that. But my colleagues in PK-12 have some ideas. So, would like to participate in this effort. My view is that the current MIT, how MIT is structured, it's quite likely that our content will be quite appropriate for 18, 17, 16. But then as you go in lower ages, you have to do different things. You have to educate the educators. So my colleagues have good ideas on that. We are still developing our strategy. Stay tuned on that.
Okay, well, and that ties into the second piece, which is it's one thing to learn from a lecture from courseware that's online, but there are a lot of things that hands-on materials are useful to support the learning process, particularly as you go down to younger students.
I completely agree with that.
And then the question is, how do you work in either a subscription model or the ability to purchase? And then for people with economic need, how do you arrange scholarships for things like the kits?
We hope philanthropy can help. That is, we are also willing to offer. The primary objective is impact, positive impact in the world. Financial sustainability is a constraint, but it doesn't have to be everything we do has to be appropriately. So we have a reasonable strategy on that, and I am all right offering things for free, assuming we are financially sustainable. Because I have to make certain. Imagine if on my hands, open learning collapses. That would be, I have a pretty successful career at MIT, but this would be remembered as a big failure of this fellow. It's not in my intentions. So I would like to do both.
That all sounds great, and that connects directly to the third piece, which is, I agree with you very much that a lot of what's out there is not worth the space that takes up. And you have to keep the quality high. But I think that is an opportunity for the MIT brand to be applied to things that came from elsewhere that are appropriate, particularly in the realm of these kits and things like that that are available to support.
MIT brand will be there. That is, if something is on Learn MIT EDU within Universal AI, MIT started it, and it's a module that a professor at Carnegie Mellon will develop, which is actually, this is cooking already, but an individual. I don't think it would be the brand would be diluted. I really don't believe that, unless we make mistakes on quality. If we make mistakes on quality, we dilute the brand. But if we don't,
Yeah, you speak about positive impact worldwide.
I don't see the gentleman.
Sorry,
Right.
like
Life's
and
brutal.
Yeah, you speak about positive impact worldwide and practical applications of the learning. There's a shortage of tradespeople. You know, what have you thought about that? And I'll give a personal anecdote. My refrigerator broke. I didn't know how to fix it. I went online. There's nothing about practical applications, fixing appliances, whatever. But on open courseware, I looked at the fluid dynamics portions of some courses and the electrical circuit board design, so I could troubleshoot the refrigerator and those types of things. I also use it as a learning experience for my kids. But I'm thinking people in developing countries, it could be something that's necessary for them to survive. It could be a path to get the financial security, so then they can move on to the higher level education. So I just
Go ahead. Curt.
I think you raise a really important point. The materials that we put out have a sort of an MIT frame on it, right? There's frequently a lot more theoretical grounding than the sort of typical tradesperson expectation would be. But one of the wonderful things about working in an ecosystem with others is we get to work with, for instance, schools and educators who do really understand how to do, relevant education for people from a wide range of needs, such as, how to be the most awesome refrigeration repair person you can be. So Sarah, you've done stuff, for instance, building collaboration with community colleges who have a little bit more of a footprint in that direction. Maybe you'd care to share an aspect of that?
I mean, it's just really wonderful to see open education in action and to see our content adapted for different learners who then go on and do really powerful things with them.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that you found some value in working on your refrigerator from OpenCourseWare.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Hi. So I was in the internet, so I've come live. I'm hybrid. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't be here earlier. But I just wanted to first share something, and then I have a comment on something. The first one is just a really cool history point. I was lucky to be a young MIT corporation member when we launched OCW, and when we hired Chuck Vest, who was extraordinary. And I think the points you made about not only OCW, but also the women's reports and getting more equality for all of us in. But I want to share something that still relates to us that's deeper in history, as it rhymes, as you were talking about. So in 1865 is the first year that MIT taught classes, and there's this super cool timeline that's on the wall if you kind of go down the Infinite Corridor and take a little right into Building 3. And in 1865, it says on February 20th, the first classes were held in the Mercantile Building, and it goes on and talks about more. And Lowell free courses began in the evenings, year one, open to both men and women, taught by MIT faculty under the auspices of Lowell. And that's from an earlier time, but just isn't it amazing to think of our early days, the first faculty, and that the threads of OCW were going to teach for free. Obviously, it wasn't digital, so you had to be in the Boston area, but everyone could join for free, which was amazing. And of course, MIT is a land grant university with all of our neighbors in other states, and so we were part of that idea of everyone open learning for everybody and including the community. So just a cool point of history for everybody. And then the second point is just, I was lucky to be a student of Woody Flowers, who was part of creating First Robotics and 2007, and now we have Fab Labs. And so I'm just so excited about what you were talking about, which is the partnerships we can do. We don't have to make all these things, but Carnegie made all these libraries. I think there's more libraries than McDonald's in the United States, so we can partner with them. And I just brought to share, most kids, they know about their phone, but they don't know about the board inside. That's just a Raspberry Pi. Or they could do, air quality sensors and these things. How do we get the physical? And I've been so inspired by how OCW has been doing great work with partners, and I think we can triple down on that, because a lot of young people are also facing loneliness. And so a way to not be lonely is to be in a community. And so having not just the course, let's not have AI just teach us, let's have each other and have AI helping us. Yeah. Which also was invented in a Media Lab way. Anyway, so just a congrats to everybody on this. And then.
No, but I would like to respond to something.
Yeah, I know. Just congrats to OCW. I'm so happy where we've come.
But one of the areas that I think the plan I outlined does not address is the in-person connection. So I have been talking quite extensively, actually, to Neil Gershenfeld, the Fab Labs. Fab Labs, for those of you who don't know, is a significant success. They have
There's massive number of Fab Labs. I've heard this,
15
and there's going to be a new Fab right here. Fab 26 this summer.
Yeah.
All of the community from all over the world will be here at the end of July.
But I would like to connect with what we are doing. So we have a collaboration with Neil. I mean, at the moment, I haven't even discussed it with my colleagues because I'm not convinced we'll succeed. But if we succeed, I'll bring it. So the idea would be, take AI, for example. You can build a model like that in which individual labs around the world can do things, can meet themselves and so forth. They have some hybrid education where we at Open Learning teach courses and so forth, teach modules rather, but there will be an in-person component, but at the distributed level. So we have some experiment with cybersecurity first and AI second. So we shall see. But if we succeed on that, believe me, because I definitely believe that while I'm a big proponent of hybrid education, I also believe that the human component in education is nothing to laugh about. That is the loneliness aspect and so forth. I mean, it's an opportunity. But, this is at the experiment. I haven't even wrote it in my board. Because if I write it, I only erase it if this might not, it's an experiment, in a way, a silent experiment. Although it's not so silent today. That's right.
We have time for one last question. Yes, sir.
Hi. So several studies from MIT have shown that using AI to supplement learning can sometimes actually hinder those learning faculties in the brain. So my question is, how do you decide how much AI is enough?
Well, I can tell you what our answer is. We have launched, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
I think the mic did not like what I was saying, so it says silence as the guy.
We can take a hint.
Okay, so we launched Ask Tim, which is a tutor system. A tutor system, you see, one of the issues with AI, it gives sometimes wrong answers, hallucinates. However, Ask Tim, when it, as a helper for problems, does not hallucinate. Why? Because we give the answers. We constructed the problem sets. The answers are known. AI knows that. The only thing is that it does not reveal